Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased, except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Nosferatu.
And we don't have that guy Craig with us. And recently, really starting since October, we've been on a huge bender of monster movies, but like classic monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula. And it has inspired us to continue this talk. And I'd like to say that beforehand, I had no interest in Dracula when we did our first episode on that. So it inspired me to read the book, and I've been reading the book now. And I just finished the chapter where poor Jonathan Harker witnesses Dracula feed a child to his bride. That poor man. So with that being said, we're going to be talking about the first adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I think it is the first one, because I think there was rumors that there was one in 1915, but this is the first surviving one, or at least the oldest surviving work of Dracula. It's called Nosferatu. It came out in 1922. And I think I mentioned this before in our first episode of doing the Universal Dracula movie, that it was an illegal adaptation of the novel. So Bram Stoker's widow sued the movie, and the courts ordered the movie to be destroyed. So all those copies were destroyed, and it was only until, like, I think the 40s or 50s, second generation reels were discovered. And Nosferatu is a very important movie to the horror genre. People consider it like the template for modern horror. So the fact that that movie could have been lost forever is absolutely, like, so interesting to me. So with all that being said, Daniel, what did you think of Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror?
I enjoyed it.
I did too.
It's it's very, it's for its obviously being from 1922 and a silent film with the exception of the music. I enjoyed it. It was simple. There were parts that, obviously from its time made me chuckle and stuff, but but overall I enjoyed it.
I think I said beforehand when we first did the 1931 Dracula that I did see Nosferatu before this, so this wasn't my first viewing. I said I didn't like it, but I liked this more than the Universal one. I don't really like the Universal one that much. And I think it's important to know also that all the characters, their names are entirely different in Nosferatu than the novel, obviously trying to avoid getting sued, even though they still did. And I was shocked. In the opening titles of the movie, they changed all these names to avoid getting sued, and they had in the credits after the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker, freely adapted by Henrik Galib.
I was laughing about that. They
that's
just
like
straight up acknowledged it.
admitting that, like, you plagiarized on a test or on an essay. It's like you're admitting the crime. What's wrong with them? The movie takes place in 1838 Germany. Count Dracula is called Count Orlok in this movie. Thomas Hutter is Jonathan Harker. Mina is called Ellen Hutter, and Knock is called Renfield is called Knock, and so forth. I think Nosferatu himself. Well, his name's not Nosferatu. Count Orlok himself. He is one creepy looking creature. I don't know how Harker or Hutter, he looks at him and thinks that's any normal looking man.
Yeah, that look is iconic for a reason.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it definitely, and he definitely, he definitely has that. He's unsettling. Even like for, even for it coming out in 1922, it's still like, just creepy. And honestly, him being silent, like the movie being silent, plays to actually play. It's one of its strengths for him.
Yeah, because you don't have to hear him talk. If he sounded weird, like the voice doesn't match the body, then it could probably put some people off. But the fact that he's just mostly standing there, I think I saw trivia. I might be wrong about this. You don't see him blink all but once in the movie, I think. I don't know. Maybe that's something else I saw. But he's just like essentially some cardboard creature. And what's interesting is that the movie treats him like a germ or like a plague. Because that's not in the novel at all.
Yeah, and I kind of like that little touch. It was interesting.
Well, before you continue, it doesn't make any sense because he clearly bites Hutter, but he doesn't die. but Ellen does, and anyone he bites dies. I don't get that. Because in the novel, it takes a while for like the vampiric thing to, to become one.
So I think
Was it the
where
crucifix?
well I think it's because I don't know did he
He did bite him. He had the marks on
yeah
his, and he
but
said it was like a mosquito bite.
yeah
That
I
didn't make
don't
any
I get
sense to me. I was like, what?
yeah
I think it's also important to anyone who wants to watch this. It is available online for free. It's in the public domain, but you have to watch it in its original form, and the original form is color tinted. It's not black and white. And this is very crucial when watching it because it has three colors throughout the movie. Yellow is during the day, blue is at night,
hmm
and purple was like early morning, dawnish. So if anyone was watching this in black and white, they'd be like, wait a minute, how is Orlok running around on that ship during the day? Because they shot it day for night. And I
yeah.
think the cameras back then couldn't handle that. They're all hand cranked and they look like boxes. So I don't think they could handle
Yeah.
the nighttime.
See, all right. So that was some of the stuff that made me laugh. Um,
What, the day for night?
no, not that. It was watching Orlok just run around the streets with his coffin
Oh
in
yeah, it's
hand.
sped up too.
Just
But he does
like
it
you
twice,
look.
I think. Hunter watches it the first
Yeah.
time. He just sees him pack in the carriage. And then he does it again at night. He's just running with it.
That was so funny when he gets in the carriage, loads everything up of himself, and then gets into his own coffin, shuts his own door, and then
Yeah,
just
someone
goes
drives
off.
him.
And yeah, then when he gets to England, and he just um and he's just wandering around the middle of the streets, like just coffin in hand. I thought that was so funny.
Well, because I
Like,
think it was the sped up footage of him doing
yeah.
it.
Well, it's also one of those things. Obviously in hindsight, where it's like, obviously the horror and stuff is different, but like, I don't know. To me, like that's something you could cut out of the movie.
What,
Like,
him
I
running
think
around.
yeah, I think to me it looks a little silly. Like I think it's better where it's like he just he like moves in the shadows. You don't see him move things, or you don't see him move. He just kind of appears. Like I think that plays better to, someone who's especially as creepy looking as Nosferatu. Like
Yeah,
you never
because
see this guy move. You just see him. You see his shadow move. But then it looks a little silly when he's just with a
he's running full
coffin in
speed.
hand. Yeah, yeah, like
Well, the movie makes great usage of shadows because there's that iconic shot of him creepily going up the stairs. Like, imagine just seeing that, the shadow going up the stairs. That's scary. I'd be horrified seeing that like creepy tall figure running at me or going up the stairs.
Yeah, like some of the effects were cool too. It was when they were on when they did the ship, and the one guy who had fallen ill, quote unquote, and and he looks over and he sees like the ghost. It was like a mirage of
Mirage.
of Nosferatu like sitting on the coffin, but
Right.
he wasn't yeah, but then it disappeared.
I
You
don't remember
remember?
that. I do not remember that.
Oh, it was I just like that effect, or like um it was or him coming out of the coffin for the first time where he just
Oh yeah, he's clearly on some kind of like platform. They just like
yeah
flip him up. I mean, that's creepy though. Imagine just seeing that.
yeah yeah no, definitely the being the it being a silent film strengthens those scenes.
I think also
I can
something
appreciate that.
that made me chuckle was at the end where the people blame everything on Knock, and the inner title too says the panic-stricken town was looking for a scapegoat. It chose Knock. They just chased this man at the end. Some lunatic.
He was like locked up the whole time too.
I don't know why I found that so funny, but just like, oh, we need to blame somebody. Yeah, just blame that guy.
Uh,
I think it would be a fool's errand to try to notice or talk about the differences between this and the novel, but this is the movie that introduces the idea that vampires die in the sunlight, because that's
mhm.
how Nosferatu dies, and Ellen essentially sacrifices herself because it said in that book that Hutter got earlier on, where he was reading it, that like somebody has to keep him distracted until sunlight.
It was a woman who's pure of heart,
Yeah, that's what it
like
was.
willingly gives up her blood to distract them. I think it was forget until the first cockcrow, which is just the rooster for the sun coming up.
Yeah.
So
And also, this movie's influence, it influenced a scene in the 1931 Dracula where Hutter cuts himself and then Orlok very creepily like grabs his hand. The
yeah,
1931 copied that. Because in the book,
but
it was a little different. It was just him shaving, and he doesn't notice Dracula come in because he's using a mirror. And like Dracula
yeah,
touches his shoulder, and then he gets startled.
and the yeah, because didn't in the 1931 though 31 he went to drink the blood, but then he like I think he was like he saw the crucifix or something like that. He pulled back, right? He didn't. I don't think he went through with it. I'm trying to remember.
I don't think he did. I don't remember either.
I think he like went to and then he like I think he might have saw like a crucifix thing, so he like pulled away. But in this one, that was another creepy scene too, where it's like he drinks it quickly from him. He like Hutter pulls back, and then for Nosferatu just walking him into a corner.
No, that was the other one. That was Nosferatu the Vampire.
No, this one didn't he do it too?
Not really. That was the Nosferatu the Vampire one.
Oh, he still kind of backed him up though. Like,
But we'll talk
but he
about that
didn't
other
do it.
movie
He
a
didn't
little
do
bit.
it.
It was
He didn't do it
creepier in the
as
other.
long.
It was creepier in
Yeah.
the other one. What else about Nosferatu? What did you like about it too? What's something else about creepy Count Orlok?
Count Orlok. I don't know. I kind of yeah. Knock. Just gets scapegoated.
I find it funny though in the lore of Dracula that Renfield is essentially just some like asylum, like someone in an asylum who eats bugs. I think that's honestly kind of funny to me because I know in other movies they have him as like, oh, in Bram Stoker's Dracula he was like the person before Jonathan. In the 1931 Dracula, Renfield's the guy that goes to
Yeah.
Dracula as a solicitor. So the fact that in the
Yeah.
novel he's just some like lunatic that eats
Yeah. They
bugs is
never.
funny.
He just somehow Dracula has an influence over him. It's not really explained how, but he got it, and so now he just he believes Dracula sends him bugs to like feed sustain him.
To eat their little life forms or life
Yeah, and
force.
yeah, exactly.
So Lucy
Yeah,
is not in this adaptation either, and neither is really Van Helsing. They had some kind of professor, but I don't think that's based off
yeah,
of Van Helsing at all. Because there were scenes that they showed like microbes under a microscope, and I think that's really to drive home the idea that this Dracula doesn't just want to like in the novel spread his like vampiric blood everywhere. He doesn't want as many people under the influence. He's a plague in this movie.
yeah. I think I like that. I did like that about Nosferatu, is that it wasn't like necessarily for love. It was just he just wanted like a new territory to go feed on people, and just like you said, like a plague just spread.
And Hutter didn't find it weird at all that Knock was essentially saying like, "Oh yeah, this new guy's going to buy this house right across the street from your house, this abandoned shack." Essentially, he didn't find that weird.
Like, why was this guy Knock have a real estate like business?
Hutter wasn't like, "Wait a minute."
Yeah,
Hmm.
I do.
There you go. You go. What
It,
are you gonna say?
uh, um,
What is something you didn't like?
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything I didn't particularly like about this.
Do you
You
think it's
know,
better than the? I know you love the 31 Dracula. You think it's better than that?
well, I wouldn't say I
Well,
love that
that's
one.
your favorite. Like, isn't that your favorite adaptation of Dracula?
Um, I mm, Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like in terms of because I love the Universal movies.
Yeah.
Like I was always accustomed to Bela Lugosi's performance, so I don't know if I would say the 31 is the best. I always liked Bela Lugosi because those were the movies I watched, and he was always in them. You know, with like Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, but he also was in other movies. Hmm. I don't know. I because I it's a they're different takes on Dracula because and you're reading the book, so like
Hmm.
you know with Count, see the thing with Count Orlok is he's creepy. He just he just wants to drink blood and keep and just like a plague. Where Dracula, like from
Oh, they're nothing like
31,
each other in the book, from like the book to
exactly.
movie.
Yeah, because was I was gonna say Dracula is like you don't really fully know his angle because even in the book is it he's more just kind of what's the right word, and then in Bram Stoker's uh
Oh. Well, in the novel, he wants to keep Parker around a little bit so he can learn about like the
yeah
English culture and way
yeah
of speaking. And he
yeah
didn't really give Harker a choice. Harker essentially writes multiple times, "I'm a prisoner here. This is horrible."
Dear FBI, if you're reading this is not a joke.
This creep is running along the sides of the castle wall like a lizard.
Yeah.
Oh, so I guess we could talk about. Well, it's kind of unfair to compare Nosferatu to the book because again, it was an illegal adaptation, so they were changing things purposefully to avoid getting sued, even though they still got sued.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
obviously,
but
he doesn't really have any of those powers that Dracula normally does.
yeah,
He doesn't
but
even turn
to
into a bat or anything.
yeah, but
I
to
think
answer your
maybe he turned
question,
into a. Sorry, one last thing. I think he
oh,
maybe
it was
turned
the
into a
werewolf.
hyena. It was clearly
Well,
a
it was
hyena.
yeah, no, I know it was clearly a hyena, but that was their way of saying a werewolf.
Yeah. Not continue. I'm sorry.
Which I did like that little ad because Dracula I think was he could shapeshift.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, so I did like that little nod of like, oh, the werewolf haunts. Um, I I don't know because like who I like better if I like this one better than the 31 or like Bela Lugosi's performance because I think with Bela Lugosi and maybe it's just um maybe it's because honestly the era we grew up in with horror movies like where I'm not referencing Twilight. I'm just, talking
Oh
about other
God.
ones. No, I said I'm not referencing Twilight when I say this. I want to be clear. I think with like the now vampires have turned into there's something more like like they're more supposed to be like seductive and classier like um
Angsty. They're angsty
what's
in
the
Twilight.
word? I'm not referencing Twilight. Um what's the one word? Like they're very is
Like
it
charismatic.
hedon? Yeah, like they're
Got
kind
the
of more
Riz.
yeah. Or they're like, they're hedonistic. That's the word I was looking for. I mean, they're kind of more like that, where as opposed to like werewolves are meant to be just brutes, like they just want to kill and they're more brutish and stuff like that. So it's a little different when you see like Nosferatu or Count Orlok, where he's just straight up creepy.
Yeah, he's just some
Like,
kind of like night creature that crawled out of
and
a sewer.
now, but I kind of like that though. Like, dare I say, even better than the Lugosi one. I do. There's a charm to both of them. I do like, where the vampire is kind of suave, and like Lugosi, but I do like this where there's just something unsettling about this bald dude with big ears and buck teeth.
And long fingernails.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I like this one better, but I can appreciate the difference in it.
And I think we would be remiss of our duties if we didn't talk about the weird cameo in SpongeBob in
Oh
2002
yeah,
where Nosferatu's flickering the lights on and off. I never understood as a kid, like, why did they, like, it's the most random thing to pick. It's just Nosferatu flickering a light on and off. It's still so funny, though. It's just, like, watching it now, it's like, what? No kid would understand that.
And didn't he do like a smile too?
Yeah, he did. They superimposed a
Nosferatu.
smile on his face.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, then he smiles.
Uh, I'll ask you this though. Did you? Well, you said you like this better than the
Yes,
31.
I do.
Do
I
you
don't really
like?
like the 31 movie that much.
What about this one makes it better than the 31?
I think this one is more atmospheric. And then the 31 movie felt very bland.
Mm.
Like this one is creepy throughout. And I know that wasn't really like what the 31 movie was trying to do, but this one is more stylized. Orlok was more of a threat than, Bela Lugosi with his slick back widow's peak and him like staring at people with the two lights on him. Listen, they're both iconic for their own reasons, but I think Nosferatu did a lot more with less.
You prefer the style like of
Yeah, I think
Nosferatu?
this one's a lot
Gotcha.
creepier, and honestly, in some ways, it's more better adapted to the book than the 31 movie. And I know the 31 is based off of a play, but
Yeah.
this one is more actually in the spirit of the book.
Yeah.
Besides the ending where he gets killed by sunlight, but still.
I do. I agree with you. I do. I like that this one's more eerie and unsettling. Even for its time. Um, I do like that. I think personally, I like that approach better to a vampire. Like and I think part of it is like I said because like now vampires have become like portrayed as like hedonistic and they're always like charming and like I said aristocrat like they're it's just like class that it's kind of like tiresome. Like I kind of like a monster that's more you know they're supposed to be scary and horrifying. So like so I always liked out of the big three, I always liked Dracula the least. I just didn't think he was like scary or really cool. And also as a kid, I didn't think he was cool looking. He was just some
Just some
some
guy in a
guy with
cape.
with a thick accent and slick back hair. So like like the Wolfman and Frankenstein were also were always cool looking. Yeah, but they were intimidating. Even the remakes like they were intimidating. So I like that more about Nosferatu that he looks unsettling, and I like that he doesn't really have some like interest in like in Bram Stoker's like the movie. I didn't like that like the love
You wanted
story
Mina?
aspect. Yeah, I like more of just like I like Count Orlok where he's just like spreading his influence like a plague just because.
I mean, I know we talked about that movie already, but I think I like different interpretations or adaptations that do different things. Because to my understanding, I haven't read the full book, but that movie is faithful to an extent, but it's really faithful in the small details, like how they kill Dracula at the end of the book. It's Jonathan slices his throat and then Quincy stabs him. That happens in the movie, but it doesn't have Mina cutting Dracula's head off. But like none of the
Mm.
other adaptations really like get those small
Yeah,
details right.
yeah,
That's why I like different like adaptations of Dracula.
yeah.
That's why I love that
Uh,
movie so much. It's like
and I
it's
think
different,
and
but
I
like
think with each of
faithful.
them, and I think with each of them, there's different things I can appreciate that the other one does that another one doesn't do.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, like but I just personally I like more in terms of the actual character. I like Orlok just he's just a menace for no reason.
So let me ask you this: we're gonna change gears real quick. Did you think the Orlok in this movie or Nosferatu the Vampire, which came out in 1979 as a remake, which one do you think was creepier? And then we'll talk about our thoughts about each movie.
I think the original.
Because you didn't talk.
Yeah, this one kind of like he was weird. Like he was more just weird. Like
He looked more like a person, kind of, besides the teeth.
yeah,
He just looked like some guy who was in a cave for 20 years and they found him. He's all pale.
Did you ever see that in Practical Jokers?
Oh,
Where
Joe?
he looked like that. But yeah, I this one I mean, he was creepy, but not like it wasn't like horrifying creepy. It was more like creepy, like keep that guy away from the school. More
Yeah,
creepy.
like he's an actual creep on the prowl.
Like he's an actual predator. Yeah, I yes, I definitely like the original Orlok better than this one. And honestly, it was more funny. Somehow, it was even funnier watching this guy all around a big coffin.
I think also what's funny was some of those shots of him just running with. He doesn't even have a coffin at night. He's just running around, and I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. It's like the way he was swinging his arms, and he was kind of like had his back hunched over. It looks so weird because he's just
well,
running by himself.
I thought it was funny that so like uh in the original Nosferatu, Orlok like hid in some abandoned, but that was a like abandoned warehouse, right? It wasn't like a church.
Yeah, where the property he wanted to get.
No, no, I'm saying when he brought his coffin,
Oh, I don't remember.
it looked like an abandoned warehouse. I don't know if it was a church, but
It
it looked
definitely
like
wouldn't
some
be
run.
a church because crucifixes like repel him. So
Well, but in the but in the other one, in the remake, he went into like it looked like a church.
I think he might have.
And then like he puts it down and he goes to run out and he like sees the crucifix. He's like, yeah. Like he like did that. He was like, ew, and ran out. I was like, why would you put your thing in a church?
Well, I
I
think
mean,
with this one, with this Orlok, is that he. Well, first off, the biggest difference between this and the Nosferatu from 1922 is that this one oddly retains the names from the novel, except Mina is now named Lucy, and Lucy is named Mina because the character Lucy is clearly Mina. Like, there's no dispute about that. I don't know why they changed her name to Lucy.
yeah, especially when you have Jonathan Harkin and Dracula.
Yeah, so Orlok is not Dracula, or Dracula's not. You know what I mean? His name is Dracula. They retained the names from the novel. I don't know why they did that because it's clearly influenced by Nosferatu, and we'll get to the ending because I didn't really like the ending, but I thought for this Dracula he was more subtle than like Orlok wasn't over the top, but he was just like creepy to look at. But this one is more subtle with his mannerisms, and he was like creepy in other ways. Like you mentioned the scene where Jonathan, yeah, Jonathan cuts his hand, and then Dracula gets up and essentially chases him to a corner. When I first watched it, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what I would throw an elbow or something. I'd be kind of scared."
Yeah, I mean, I do. He did make like it was uncomfortable to watch him like like in that scene, which is a good that that's what they were going for. It was uncomfortable. I guess it's just like to me, maybe it's just the way he looked, or like how he looked because he definitely, like you said, he looked more human. But I think I can agree with that. He definitely came off. Um, I just,
Depressed.
yeah. But I think no, it is it's what you said before. I think what messed it up, or maybe not messed it up, but didn't sit as well with me was your point before the silent film. Like the silence in the original one played to the strength. It strengthened Orlok. Where like this one,
Oh,
where
where
it's
I
like,
was saying the voice wouldn't match the body.
yeah, I don't know. There's the way he talked. He like he would make some weird noises, and I'm like, he just seems like some creepy like dude. It's not even like a vampire. Like Orlok was just kind of, he almost seemed like a force.
Yeah, he's this one's definitely like I said. He's more subtle, reserved. I think is a good word. He always has like his hands by his chest or something. He's always doing
Yeah,
something
yeah,
weird.
like that one scene, like where he comes in and talks to Lucy. He's like, "I'm Count Dracula," like, and she
And he
just,
was so
yeah.
polite about it too.
Well, the bet, like, she didn't even react. Like this bald bucktooth guy just comes in the corner like in all black pale, puts it, rests his hands like that, and like just casual, like she wasn't freaked out or anything. Like, oh my, like, and had an interaction. She's like, oh no, don't, like, I'm Count Dracula. I know Hark. Like, they'd be like, oh okay, nope, just casually comes in, sits in the corner. It's like, what?
Yeah, like the whole, I think the actress who played Lucy, her acting was very wooden. But it should be noted that they shot two versions of this movie. They shot it back to back. They shot an English and a German with the same actors. So they're speaking two different languages after like a take. So I can't fault them for that. But that's crazy. I would hate to work on that movie. Imagine doing a take in English and then you gotta do it in German.
Oh,
Lord. Well, that
so
mirror
wait,
scene was probably the best part of the movie, though. Like we were kind of making fun of it, but obviously anyone who has a modicum of intelligence, how they shot it, you have a body double closest to the camera, where you don't see their face, cut out in the wall. The actress is right there. That's all you. The actress is parallel with the body double. That's how you do those, because now it would probably be CGI. But
yeah.
he was just so casual when he was talking to Lucy. He's essentially like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Dracula."
Yeah, like she's not shocked by it, or like,
She was shocked initially. She was more shocked at the door opening than seeing this pale creature in the corner of the room.
yeah, I think it's honestly, it's just like the way he talked and stuff. It just, it threw me off, you know. Um, it, it's, yeah, especially because, like, at least with Bela Lugosi, right? Like, here's like, where I would like, what I liked more was that, Bela Lugosi, when he talked with them, he was charming. He's a foreigner, so he seems like, uh he's very suave and stuff like that. So his talking didn't throw me off. There's a charm to him. Like this guy talking, it was just like weird.
I think
Oh,
it worked in this one because I do like this one too. Maybe not as much as the original because this one felt like a little
I,
slow in some spots. But
yeah.
the movie is kind of moody and creepy. A
I
lot of
will say
creepy
though,
visuals.
there were certain I did like. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you: did you like original Orlok or this one better?
Despite looking kind of the same, they're very different. And
Yeah,
this one, you could make the argument that this one is more creepier just from how he acts and
yeah.
how he talks. Uh,
He definitely makes you feel more uncomfortable.
yeah, I mean, this movie also, it's very atmospheric, like more so than the original. It's like you know what it is? It's like a slow burn. It's nothing fantastical or exciting really happens. It's just more of setting the mood and establishing that creepy atmosphere. And I think in that regard, it works pretty well.
I did too. I mean, I agree there. Like, especially in the beginning, like they have like that long shot of just like those skeletons, and then you have like that music, like, like that humming music just in the background.
I just
Uh,
hated the ending. I
well, I
think,
will get to that, but
yeah,
before we get to, I think that's like the one thing we're gonna hate really about this. Um, but what I agree with you. I did like how it took time to set up the eeriness. Especially, I liked the time it took. So it's very quick of getting him out of, you know, they're in London, in England, correct?
I think this one might be
Or Germany.
Germany. I think this one's still Germany, but it's a different year. It's like
Yeah.
1860 because the original one was 1838. Oh, it's 1850 in Germany.
But I like how they got him. It didn't take long, and that's one thing I like about both of these, and I like about these older films. Like, they don't take long to get going, because it's like it just moves right along. And for this one too, like I like that it doesn't take long to get him out of Germany. You know, he goes into Transylvania, and I like that after he meets with like the locals who are like really warning him against it. You know, and he's like, "All right, fine, I'll walk." And I like that it like the different shots of him just going through the countryside and going through the cave and slowly traveling to get to this point. Like I did like that, and I also liked when he meets um, Dracula
Dracula.
and I like the I don't know if you caught this, but it was like either like it sounded like a wolf or like wind. It just kept howling in the background as they were talking. It just was like
Oh,
slowly,
that's when he says that famous line. Listen to
yeah,
the
the creatures of the night. But children of the night.
what
Uh,
wonderful sound they make.
yeah, but I like that they kept using that sound in the
What music
background.
they make. That's what it was.
Yeah, I like that they kept at just throughout their talking. It was loud enough that you heard it, but not like where it was took you from. You just kept hearing that in the background. Like it was like you're saying that slow burn. They just kept playing. It was eerie. I did like that. And I also I thought
Well, I was going to say real quick, a big difference too is the acting. When you're acting in a silent movie, it's very different because obviously there isn't any sound. So your acting motions and the way you move have to be more fantastical and like a little over the
yeah
top. This one is entirely more reserved and subtle.
yeah
Like everything's a lot more quiet in this movie. For some reason, the copy I was watching, the one that I shared with you, only the left audio channel was working. So
yeah
I don't know why that was a thing, but it was annoying because I like to listen with both headphones in. But yeah, the besides Lucy, she wasn't very good. The acting was a lot more like I said, subtle and quiet, and not no one is moving around over the top like the 1922 movie.
yeah.
Besides
And
Dracula running like a weirdo at night.
I really like with this cough. It's just so fun. I still can't get over the coffin scene in both of them. Like, he's just casually moving around because, like, for I guess modern movies, like you don't show that detail at all. Like, you would cut to like how Bram Stoker's did or the 1931 did, where it's like he was on the ship. You know that they're on the ship and they got off the ship and now the next scene is Dracula. In the 31, it was him going into to see that, going into the theater, and then was it Bram Stoker's? It was him like walking around the streets of London. Like, so the fact that it's like they actually took time to show this tall, lanky dude just wandering around the streets with a coffin, looking around, like
Yeah, that was funny.
a major difference in both from the book is continuing to this one was Van Helsing.
Well, he's kind of in this movie though.
Well, he is,
He has
but
a very small part.
but he's also a skeptic. Like he's like, oh, stick to the science, and it's like in the book and like the Bram Stoker's, it's like he was like, yeah, let's kill Dracula. Like he was like, yep, we're killing Dracula. Like I
Did
like
Lucy
that.
die a painful death? We cut off her head.
But,
Oh, he's eating. That's so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. Keanu Reeves struggling to maintain his accent. But
I'm sorry, Count, if I offended you.
this like
God, he's so bad in that movie.
silver this weird silver hair. At least like um yeah, because did they show that him getting like bitten? Oh, he had like that weird orgy scene, but
And which one? Not in this one, right? Did I
no,
miss something?
And Bram Stoker's.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's when
Well,
Dracula
also
pulls out the baby and they start feeding on it. He just starts
yeah,
screaming.
yeah, God. But yeah, this one Van Helsing is very very small part, and uh at first he plays like he's like a skeptic of the supernatural. He's all about trust the science and stuff like that to Lucy when she's like brings it to his attention.
Yeah, because Mina dies. Like
Yeah.
she's barely in the movie too. Like
Yeah.
Mina as Lucy
I think the only scene is like,
in the beginning.
yeah, and then they show her dead on the floor with the 2 bite marks.
So do you want to talk about the ending and how much I disliked it?
Well, I did want to say for another part that made me laugh.
Yes.
Um, it didn't make me laugh in the original one, but it made me laugh because of a small detail. In this one, so when Jonathan escapes the castle and falls. And I just like how the only reason that this one made me laugh and the original one didn't is because there was a little kid who's playing the instrument.
I don't remember this. Let
There's
me
a
try
little
to.
kid like there's a little kid under the castle like doing something, and Harker just falls in front of him and is
Oh
out
yeah.
cold.
Oh yeah. The kid's on like has a violin.
Yeah, the
How did
kid
I
just
forget
playing
this?
music, and Harkin just collapses, just drops in front of him.
Well, one very small detail that this movie doesn't do that the original Nosferatu did was there was a different stagecoach driver because in book and movie or in Nosferatu and in the book it's clearly Dracula who's the coach driver just to reinforce that Dracula's the only one really in the castle. And
Yeah.
I had to look. I'm like that's just some guy. Like that's not Dracula. So
No.
the ending now, I hated it. It doesn't ruin the movie, but it's just like really silly. So Dracula, it plays out the same way how it does in Nosferatu, where Dracula dies after essentially like sucking on Lucy's neck for hours, but he doesn't turn to dust like he does in Nosferatu. It looks like he has a stroke or a heart attack, and he just falls over. So then, not Harker. Van Helsing comes up and he just drives a stake through the dead body of Nosferatu or
Yeah.
Dracula just to make sure he's dead. That's fine. That's whatever. And when he comes down, Jonathan for the second half of the movie is kind of sidelined where he is feeling the ailments of his or turning into a vampire, and he actually turns into a vampire at the end of the movie. And then he
Yeah.
orders the police to arrest Van Helsing for killing Dracula. I was like,
And then
"What?"
yeah, that was
And then he rides off on a horse, wearing the same kind of stuff Dracula was wearing in the beginning.
I don't like. I was just confused
Yeah, I was like, you know, you don't have to be true to the novel, but this is based off of Nosferatu,
because
and
I
it's like
thought,
it's so different.
yeah, because when he stood up from the chair, because he essentially in the second half of the movie he's just sitting in that corner like
He-
a crazy person, and he stands up from the chair like when when the police come in and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, like he's gonna, because she also didn't she like consecrated the ground around him. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, he's gonna come out of it, and
Oh
then
yeah, he was gonna see Lucy real quick before she dies,
yeah,
but no, he just says arrest Van Helsing, and then Van Helsing comes down with the bloody stake in his hand.
I know. Well, I think it's also to be noted as well. Like, I think that the like no one knew about like who did like in this one. Did anyone really know who Dracula was? Like the town, because like essentially there was no one left in
Yeah.
the
Oh,
town.
I guess we forgot to mention that this one really plays into the plague effect, where there's just scenes of like mass what's it called when you, I guess, funerals, but they're carrying the caskets throughout the town,
Yeah, almost
whatever
like a
that's called.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's not like a
Anyway,
traditional funeral. It's like you're carrying around the casket around the
yeah,
town, like they're a president or something or a famous person.
yeah. Um, but yeah, the it's not a convoy. Anyway, it will come to us. But yeah, because now I wanted to ask you because
Yes.
Was it Dracula killing all these people, or was it he actually like
I think it's in the movie and Nosferatu, it's him killing people. It's him
it
biting
is?
people.
It's just to show the passage of time.
Yeah, it's like
Because I know they were
he is the
blaming the I know
plague
they
in the town.
yeah, because I know they were blaming the rats, but I assumed it was him.
Could one assume that those rats are him transforming? Like all those rats. That's another use of his powers in this movie. And by the way, there are shots where there's like hundreds of rats. I don't know if this movie had. I forget when laws were passed for movies for protecting animals, but there was a lot of rats on those sets. I can only imagine what it must have been like to wrangle all of them. That must have been a
Just hire someone.
nightmare. They're
I
probably like
know.
peeing everywhere.
Yeah, that ending. It did, like you said, it didn't ruin the film. It just had me when I was watching, I'm just like,
I was like
what?
scratching my head kind of. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's why I was just like, wait, what?
Again,
Like,
I know I said I like different like interpretations and adaptations, but this is based off of Nosferatu, not the novel. So the fact that they deviated kind of heavily at the end, I was just like, what? Again,
like
also like
what?
the names too. It's so strange that they use the novel names and not, Hutter. And I do like the novel names. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, I just think, yeah, it would have made more sense, like if you wanted to do like a twist like that, like they bury Lucy and then she comes back, and
oh,
then like that would have made more sense. It's like, oh, we got rid of this plague, and I lost the girl, my wife, whatever. Like she sacrificed herself, but it didn't really work because now she's coming back. I think that would have been a better twist than Hart. Hart can just like,
leaving.
yeah, but that was also bizarre too. It's like because he's like, oh, we got
Get
work
my
to do. Like,
horse.
yeah, we got work to do. It's like, where was he going?
So remind me, what happened to Renfield at the end? Because I know in the original Nosferatu, I think he dies because he says like the master is dead. Then he kind of slumps over because that's after the people chase him around and throw him in jail.
I don't know in this one.
I don't remember.
Did it really address him?
I did watch this 2 days ago, and I think you probably just finished watching this.
Hmm.
I don't. The ending just stuck out with me so much. I was like, that's silly. Jonathan Harker should not turn into a vampire at the end. That doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it was such a bizarre choice.
A choice that I did not like, but
Well,
like I said, it didn't impact how I felt.
because
It's
I'm
not like
just
one of those
curious.
things that just change everything. Like, oh wow, everything was great up until that point. Now I hate it.
Because I'm just wondering, like when he's like, we have much to do. It's like what, and he rides off on a horse. Like, what is he like? Like, what is the reference? It's not even like he got in, like he went into a coffin and got back on a ship and went somewhere.
I guess
Like,
he's gonna
okay,
go somewhere else to
yeah,
bite people and kill them. So let me ask this then. This isn't. I guess this is more of a rhetorical question. What is Dracula's point, or Orlok slash Dracula in these two movies? What is his goal? Does he just want to kill everybody? Because in the novel, like we said, it makes sense. He wants to, turn as many people as he can into vampires or vampires. Makes sense, right? But when he bites people and he kills them, like, how far is he going to go with all this killing?
yeah. I don't know.
And I
Like,
know it's the plague, and they're treating him like a plague, but well, and I know Dracula needs blood to sustain himself, but I don't know. Maybe I answered my own question. He's just, the idea is that he's a plague, and he's a germ, and he infests. Maybe that's the answer. Then I don't know.
yeah, because I think that in the first one it does a better job like that. Like he's kind of He just needs to. He just needs. They just paint him as like he's this plague because he just needs to sustain blood. He needs to sustain himself by drinking blood, which kills people. And then, but this one, I was a little confused because it when he talks
Well, he
to.
clearly is attracted to Lucy.
Well, that threw me for a loop a bit because in the original one there was no love interest, right?
Yeah, she was essentially luring him in
Just
so
for
he could die.
blood, just for the blood. It wasn't, but he never had that conversation like because he's like he said to her in this one like, oh, you could you could save him by showing me like he was like you could show me love or whatever. Like it was like weird. Like I'm
It's
like
like an awkward kid crushing on a girl in middle school.
because at least in I'll say this, there was no setup for that for him to have like want to know what love is, like.
Well, I guess you can make the argument that that's why he acts the way he does because he's essentially put away in a corner. Like he's living in his own castle, very far away from everything. So I guess that's the interpretation of Dracula, where he is just, I want to say out of touch, but he's not accustomed to those things because he's been alone for such a long time.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, because he said something to her like she was like, oh, because he's like, oh, is he gonna die? And then she starts talking about how everyone's gonna die, and he's like, death isn't such a bad thing. It's more of a curse to be living forever. So, but it was just weird that they try to give him this little sympathetic approach when there wasn't like setups for it. Like I think in Bram Stoker's that one, like I said, regardless of the love, how I feel on like, whether Dracula should have love or whatever, they at least set it up and it played off and it
You
paid
just
off.
want him to torture Jonathan Harker all day. That's what you like.
I mean,
if it's Keanu Reeves, yeah, sure.
if it's shirtless Hugh Jackman, I think that one's called Bram Stoker's. But
What is wrong with you?
but at least in that one, right, it gave him the backstory that he lost the woman he loved. Now he sees her in Mina, and now he wants her. It makes sense. It's a simple setup, payoff. This one I just didn't really, at least in the first one, there's none of that where it's just like, yeah, he comes here, just to feed on more people, and like a plague moves on, and he needs to get stopped. This one, it was like now he's like,
Now he's crushing on Lucy.
yeah, he wants love, and then that was weird at the end. Like when instead of going to bite her neck, he
was like groping her.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like it was weird. Like I was like, what is this?
My man
like,
was copping a feel.
the sequel, Nosferatu, charged on trial.
Imagine like a court cam with him. Would he even show up on the camera? That's the question.
Well, because it's not technically a reflection, though, right?
I think most cameras are. That's how they get the image.
Yeah. Yeah, so he wouldn't show up.
You just see a shadow. That'd be crazy. Imagine just seeing the shadow interacting with things.
You don't see his skin, you just see like his robe just moving around.
Oh, like the Invisible Man.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it was. I know this one was like I was reading. This one was well received. I just thought it was.
They both were.
Yeah, like, but this one, like the first one, I can see. This one was just weird. Like, there's parts that were just weird, and it has a good a very I like the beginning part where it's setting up and it's building and it's very eerie and the sound, and then there's just parts that I just like the ending, and then like him.
I hated the ending.
Yeah, and then the scene of him, groping Lucy before he. I'm like, I was just like, what? Like, why? What is like?
Yeah, that was strange at the end. Well, I guess that's his weird, horrible way of finally getting love. I guess it's weird. I felt weird watching. I was like, oh my god, he's groping her.
Yeah, that was weird. Well, because I literally I was watching it and I had to like I was like, am I like is this like gonna go in the direction I'm thinking this is gonna
That's
go?
always the worst when you're watching that stuff, and you have to like look behind you to see if anyone's watching. Because then, if somebody like
Yeah,
walks in behind you, they think
I
you're watching something
yeah,
else.
yeah, I literally had to do that because he's like slowly pulling up her like dress, and I was like, where's this
Gotta
going?
turn around.
Where's this going? Where's this going?
I swear, I'm
Uh,
watching a movie. So let me ask this: well, how about this? What are some of your final thoughts on both this movie and Nosferatu, the original? Oh, and real quick too, before you answer that, so this movie's title is Nosferatu the Vampyre, and nobody really knows where the word Nosferatu originated from because it's Romanian and it possibly means vampire, and they think that it comes from the Romanian word of Nesferitu, which means the offensive one. So that means that this movie's title is Vampire the Vampire with a Y. The more you know.
That'd actually be funny. Vampire the
The vampire.
vampire.
All right, what do you think about this movie? Give me some final thoughts.
I think if they were able to combine these two, like if you were able to take the Orlok, I honestly would have very much like if you take the ending and Orlok from the original one and put them into this movie. I think you'd have like almost like a best of both worlds. You'd
Mm.
have I just this Orlok was just again like the with the way he talked and he seemed like just a very awkward like socially awkward. He seemed socially awkward is the word I was looking for. He's just like he's moving around his like looks and he's just like looking around with his like shoulders hunched like I think to me it comes across more awkward than it does like straight up like creepy. And I think in the original one he definitely is just more creepy and imposing and you just so I think if they took the original Orlok, put him into this film, you cut out that weird groping scene and you switch the ending to the original one, I think you'd have the best of both worlds
Hmm.
in this.
I think I like them both for different reasons. The original one's a classic, and this one does a lot of things I do like. Again, I just kind of hate the ending where Harker becomes a vampire. I thought that was dumb. But maybe if
Yeah.
someone's listening to this, maybe they could justify why they like the ending with Harker becoming a
Yeah.
vampire. Maybe you could say it's repeating the cycle of, the plague is never really over. I don't know. I'd be interested to see anyone say anything as to why. I'm all ears. And I'm definitely. So we talked about these two movies because there's a new Nosferatu movie coming out in a couple of weeks. It's coming out on Christmas Day, and actually came out already. It had its premiere. It holds a 93% right now, so
Wow.
that is a good sign. And apparently, it's very faithful to the source material, so I'm assuming that's the original Nosferatu. The new one, which we are going to review when it does come out, what I know about it right now is that it retains the names from Nosferatu and not the novel. So we're going to get
Okay.
old Count Orlok and old Thomas Hunter. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I did enjoy both of these Nosferatu movies. As I said in the beginning, I like Dracula. I like the book so far. My favorite one is still Bram Stoker's Dracula. So, but I like the lore of Dracula. I'm a
Yeah.
deeply closeted Dracula fan.
Did I get you hooked into the horror genre?
Not so much the horror genre, but it's just like talking
The
about
character.
Dracula. And I think what
Yeah.
really made me want to read it was after seeing the Bram Stoker's one. Because, like I said, I adore that movie. I actually bought that on Blu-ray and these two Nosferatu movies on Blu-ray.
Oh.
Add to my collection. So I
So
adore the Coppola one.
would you say you have an interest like is it just like Dracula? Like and
It's really only Dracula. I mean, I think I'd be interested maybe to read Frankenstein because that one's like 200 pages. Dracula's 400. It's a
yeah,
long book.
Frankenstein's a shorter one. And again it's a different
Yeah, it's like the letters. But I
yeah,
think
well
I don't want this to be like a book review. I think that's way more interesting reading someone's journal and letters and like an actual
Yeah.
what's the word they had omniscient or no, that's not that word. But it's like a narrator narrating the whole thing. I like somebody describing what they're seeing. In the
What's it
novel.
called? Like it's almost like a god's eye view.
Yeah, well, I butchered the word, but it's like omnipresent or something like that.
Yeah. Well, the omniscient. Yeah, omnipresent. Omnipresent. Like they're
No, I think
everywhere.
it's
They know.
omniscient.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Omniscient. Like they know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But or all knowing. But
Yes.
yeah, I think that is a term, right? God's eye view. Like you're the essentially the god of
The
that
God's Eye from
universe.
Fast and Furious.
No, I. Let me see. Yep. Uh, yeah, God's eye view is a name for a point of view where the speaker or writer assumes he or she has knowledge only God would have. In writing, when a writer leaves the point of view of the main actor to start writing about things that they could not know if the story were in real life, like
Yep.
so you,
I like the way the book is told.
yeah, that is your kind of you're
You're
going
learning stuff as the characters learn
yeah
stuff too.
you're on the character's point of view. It's not like me telling you, yeah, Harker was right, you're reading these letters, meanwhile Dracula was shaving.
Yeah. I think it's more mysterious not knowing what Dracula's doing when he leaves
Yeah.
Harker. And Harker's like, "Oh my god, I hate it here." The poor guy.
I mean, just watching a child get fed would.
So, would you recommend these two movies? Because I think we're reaching the end of our program. I think I would. I think I would recommend both movies. And this is just one little minor thing I forgot to mention about the original Nosferatu movie. You won't find a definitive version of the music that was originally used during the premiere because the all is left is like some part of the adapted suite. The music for the movie is entirely lost because everything with all the original prints got destroyed. So
Wow.
usually all the versions you watched have different takes with like it's different interpretation of the music for the movie, which I thought was interesting. So we don't know what the original movie sounds like.
Hmm.
Food for thought.
But I would recommend them. I would.
Yeah, I think they're in their own ways very good, solid movies, and I'm definitely curious. Not curious. I'm looking forward to seeing the new one that's coming out.
You're excited.
I am excited. My Bram Stoker is excited. With all of that being said, though, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
Bram Stoker.
And we will see you next time.